Good morning and welcome to Small Business Matters, where we always discuss all things small business. Today's show is a little different. We have somebody who went from getting kicked out of high school to hitting rock bottom to the top of the mountain, really, to become CEO of very important organizations. So today, without further ado, and always, as always, we like to thank Miami's Community News for this platform. We couldn't do it without them. So now, without further ado, I'd like to introduce you to Nelson Hincapie. Nelson, thank you for being here.
Thank you, Carlos. Thank you for the invitation.
So I really summed up your life probably a little bit unfairly there.
No, it is what it is.
Okay. And I always like to say people do business with people, not with companies. So tell us a little bit about yourself.
So I'm originally from Colombia, been in Miami 35 years, so I'm almost Cuban, drink cafecito. I love all things Cuban.
You went from tinto to
cafecito? I went from tintico to cafecito.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, no, Miami is a great place. I love Miami, and it's the place that's given me a second chance. Like you said, got kicked out of high school, moved here when I was about 18, the second time, and my life was a mess. I by the age of 24, I was on the ledge of a building ready to jump off.
Wow. Here in Miami?
Here in Miami, in North Miami, 2025 Northeast 164th Street. Yeah. I was on the ledge of that building, and I was with a friend, and my friend Camilo, who pulled me off, ended up killing himself 11 months later. So yeah,
my goodness.
It's it's hard, but it's what it's been. I'm blessed, and I have, the older I get, the more I realize that this is a spiritual. We're here for such a limited time. It's really a spiritual experience. So I better make the most of it in terms of the spiritual life that I live.
So here you are, you're 24 years old. You were very close to jumping over a ledge. What happened after that?
So I checked into rehab at South Miami Hospital, and I've been sober for 29 years. And
was it alcohol, drugs, both?
Everything, yeah.
Okay.
Anything that allowed me not to feel the pain that I was carrying without knowing that I was in pain, right? There were a lot of things that happened. My mom, was absent, and my dad I didn't have really a dad there to guide me, and those things added up. I was abused by a teacher when I was in 7th grade, and so all of these things. No, the abuse was in Houston, Texas, because my mom left our house in Colombia. Mm-hmm. She left when I was about 9, then she went back to get us when I was about 11. But she left. She came to the U.S., and it must have been very, very hard for her to leave her 2 kids behind. But it was the only thing she could do for herself. So, as an adult, you understand all of these things, and I'm sitting here and I'm telling you the story, but there's a lot of pain behind, and there have been a lot of tears, and it's been a lot of struggles, and it all leads to why I'm doing what I'm doing now, and what I've decided to move on and start a new chapter in my life, where I do more work for God, and God doesn't need help. He doesn't need saving. Right. He doesn't. But what I want to do with my life in this 40 years at the most that I have left, or if I'm lucky, if I'm blessed, is really give testimony and be honest about what my life has been and how He has saved my life in many different occasions.
You get out of rehab. You're 24 still? 24?
24.
24 years old. During that time that you had your struggles with addiction and things like that, did you work? Did you?
I was a waiter at the melting pot, and that was you.
The good old melting pot.
Yeah. You melt cheese and you smoke pot. That's a melting pot. No, so you start work at 3:00, you get off at midnight, then you party till about 6 a.m. You sleep till 2, and then it's like it's a revolving door of just despair.
That was the culture, the lifestyle.
That was the lifestyle
for the restaurant worker.
Yeah, for many of us. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was the lifestyle, and I guess I was able to get out of that life cycle, and of course, I think I took it to extremes always. Mm-hmm. Somehow the other people that worked, my colleagues, were able to stop or get out of it, but I wasn't. And so it took a toll. It took so much so that I ended up on the ledge of a building, almost jumping off. And went to treatment. And once I got to treatment and I started seeing, one of the first things that the therapist asked me, Dr. Omar Mejia, was, tell us a little bit, tell the group about your story. Mm-hmm. And he started poking, and my story had been that my parents got divorced. And then he starts poking, yeah, but how do you end up here? How do you end up in? And then he said, and where was your mom? And I said, well, my mom left, And he said, oh, so your mom abandoned you. When he asked me that, it was like a piercing question. And it's when I realized that, holy crap, my mom, yeah, she did what she had to do, but ultimately she abandoned her son, her 9-year-old son, and that hurt. And that's when I started looking back. That's when I started really owning my story and coming to grips with the fact that, listen, there's a lot of pain in life, and I wasn't like getting high and thinking, oh, my mom abandoned me, I'm going to get high. Right. But that's what ends up happening. And then you start peeling at the onion and looking at all the other things that have happened, and then the abuse. And then everything that happened from 14 to 24 was terrible because you do whatever needs to be done to get high. And so there was a lot of shame. There was a lot of guilt. There was a lot of remorse. I hated myself. I hated life. I hated everybody. And I hated God most of all. Fast forward, it's been, almost 30 years. And here I am, giving glory to God because there's no way, yes, sobriety changed my life or sobriety saved my life, but really,
I'd say
God healed my wounds. Yeah.
Right. You had a little help getting sober too.
Yeah.
From the man upstairs.
Yes. Oh, for sure. 100%. And I didn't see it that way. I only, my conversion into my faith began in 2016.
Were you brought up Catholic or no?
Yes, cradle Catholic, and my grandmother was very faithful. She used to pray. Catholics have this prayer, the rosary, and she used to do the rosary every night. And you know what? As I meet people and as I network, and I realized we have to thank our grandmothers because they prayed. They did one thing, and it was pray for us. And you better believe that we are where we are because of those prayers of the grandmothers, especially the Latin grandmothers. And the Caribbean grandmothers too. They pray. That's what they do.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
What was you get out of rehab, and correct me if I'm wrong, because and you just said it, your mindset while you were in this vicious cycle of addiction, partying, etc., was possibly one of dead end, despair, nowhere to go. When you got out of rehab, did that mindset change? How did your mindset start to change?
It started shifting with doing the things that they ask you to do. So you have to go to meetings, you have to get a sponsor, you have to work the steps. And AA was a big part of my early years, of my mind shift. It's an amazing way to really shift the focus and shift the mind and really, attain sobriety. And I am convinced today that AA is about helping you find God, because without God, there's nothing.
Right.
So AA is about giving you different paths to help you find God. And they, as a matter of fact, they tell you, if you don't believe in God, create your own God. Come up with your own, with your own idea of what God is or who God is, and you do that. And I did that for a very long time. I went to, I practiced mindfulness, meditation, Buddhism. I did everything. But it wasn't until I started coming back to the Catholic roots and my faith that I was able to really understand and look at the wounds and begin the process of healing the wounds. And that's been a beautiful journey for me. And it has a lot to do with, the things that I was able to do as CEO of Voices for Children, as CEO of the Miami-Dade College Foundation, the people I was able to meet. And I believe that it was all things that God put in the path to be able to grow, but to be at the point where I know that only God heals those emotional wounds.
Yeah.
It's a mistake to think that, we're going to be able to heal the wounds of the soul with anything but God.
Now you refer to them as wounds. Before, what were they? Was it just something repressed that you didn't even touch?
You don't look at it. Carlos, you don't look at those things. You don't talk about those things. You bury them really, really deep, and you build successful life on top of that. But sooner or later, that will come back to haunt us, and it will either give us cancer, make us sick physically, mentally, or just it will send us spiraling down to a place of no return.
Yeah. What's really intriguing to me, you just mentioned that you were CEO of several prestigious organizations, and you went from, high school dropout or got kicked out of high school to the Kellogg School of Business, which is a great school, an amazing school. You got your MBA there? Is that?
No, I did an executive scholar program.
Okay.
Yeah.
An executive program there. That transition to me sounds amazing. From getting kicked out of high school, addict for many years. How many years were you an addict?
10 years, from 14 to 24.
From 14 to 24. And what was that journey, that path going from there to the CEO of these prestigious organizations to where you are now? Because there had to be steps in between, I imagine, or was it a lightning bolt and all of a sudden you're the CEO of an organization?
I wish it could have been a lightning bolt. No, it took me long, very long, but it was Miami-Dade College really that opened the doors. Miami-Dade College was the place that opened the doors for me and gave me an opportunity and believed in me when I didn't believe in myself. Back then, Malin Pumariega was the dean of students, and she believed in me, and I didn't believe in myself, and she gave me opportunities. I became the president of Phi Theta Kappa. Of course, I did hard work. I worked hard, and I did what I had to do. But then I had a lot of opportunities through the college. I won a presidential scholarship and I decided to go to FIU. And in my first semester at FIU, I remember being in line to register classes. It was 2000. Yeah. Okay. So 2002. So I was an older student. I was maybe 27.
Okay.
And at FIU, I had just finished my 2 years at Miami-Dade College, and I'm in line to register classes, and I get a call from my cousin, my 18-year-old cousin, telling me that he had cancer, osteosarcoma, and they lived in Naples. And so every day I would leave class, the campus on 8th Street, I would take 8th Street all the way to Naples to spend time with him. And slowly...
Every day?
every day I would go because I wanted to spend time with him and help his parents deal with the doctors and all that. It was a very aggressive cancer. So I ended up losing the scholarship because I stopped going to classes because, being with him became, talk about priorities. And it's yes, school is so important and having a, scholarship is important, but I don't regret having spent the last 6 months of his life with him. And
he went that quickly.
Yeah, it was very, very quick at 18.
Sad.
At 18. So I was able to be there and I was able to be with him. Dying is, so I got a really early look at what dying looks like. And unbeknownst to me, it was preparing me for then what was my mother's death in 2011 and just death in general. It's just, our time on earth is so brief.
Yeah.
And we think that we have all the time in the world. And the reality is that we don't have, nothing is a given.
Yeah.
And this may be our last interview. Hopefully not but
yeah, absolutely. So from there, how did you navigate Miami-Dade to become the CEO of these organizations?
So while I was at Miami-Dade, I had a very good friend who worked in politics who really opened the door for me. He was working on the Universal Pre-K campaign with Mayor Alex Penelas and Dave Lawrence, the former publisher of the Miami Herald. And they needed somebody, he told me they needed a volunteer coordinator. At that time, I was working at the Albion Hotel. I was the bellman. I was opening the door on the graveyard shift from 11 p.m. to 7 in the morning. So when my friend called me and said, hey, I need a volunteer coordinator, I had no idea what he was talking about. All I asked him was, what are the hours? And he's, what do you mean, what are the hours? Yeah, can I work from 9 to 5? And he said, yeah. And I said, I'm there. I want out of the graveyard shift. Graveyard shift is horrible.
Yeah.
And so I started working with Alex Penelas on the Universal Pre-K Amendment. I went through all the 67 counties, picking up petitions to put on the ballot. And when that passed, and I worked hard, and people in his office recognized me, and they saw that I was a hard worker. So when he decided to run for Senate, I went to work on his campaign on the I-4 corridor. So I managed Daytona, Tampa, and Orlando. And when that was unsuccessful, I came back to Miami. Commissioner Jimenez had just been elected.
Okay.
I had an opportunity to either work for Mayor Alvarez or Commissioner Jimenez, and I went with Commissioner Jimenez because he said the right thing when I interviewed. And when I was getting married that year, one said, be here on December 19, and Commissioner Jimenez said, hopefully you'll only get married once in your life. Go get married, come back, and your job will be waiting for you. So
easy choice.
Easy choice. He's an amazing, amazing human being. And it's funny, the three most or three of my biggest mentors have been Cuban guys and a lady. So Alex Penelas, Carlos Jimenez, and Malen Pumariega, all of Cuban and different Cuban story, but the same, at the end of the day, the same story of family, of grandmothers praying for them, of unity, of faith, of and I have that in me. That, without knowing, they were helping me care for the seeds that my grandmother had planted as she prayed the rosary. And so, those seeds have to be cared for, and part of that caring for the seeds is watering them. Yeah. And the way to water the seeds that are planted in your soul is through your tears. It's a paradox, but our pain is what helps us grow. And when I like to, when I explain it to the youth I mentor, I talk about seeds, and a seed when it becomes a plant, it has to explode.
Right.
In the same way, when we grow, we have to go through the pain that we have experienced. And there's no, you're not going to die from the pain of your past.
Right.
It's simply going to help
Unless you let it do it.
Yes, of course.
Unless you let it.
Of course. And that happens when you don't look at it. I think we have to look at the painful situations in our lives and recognize that they are there, that they happened, they're in the past. We are not the past. We are not those situations. So I'm not the abuse that happened to me. I'm not, and yes, it's an injustice. And yes, it hurts. And yes, something should have been done. But it is through the grace of God that I can forgive that teacher who abused me. And it's happened.
Yeah.
I have no, I wanted revenge at some point. I no longer need revenge.
Right. Yeah, for us as Catholics, that's a very big thing. We were forgiven 2,000 years ago.
That's right.
And we're called to forgive 7 times, 70 times. So speaking of pain, did you ever think about getting into politics yourself, running for office?
No. No. Now I want to avoid pain.
Okay.
No, I don't.
Okay.
I have a lot of respect and admiration for the people who do run for office, because it's a thankless. They are treated, like dirt, and it's so difficult. So no, I've never thought about running.
Okay. I was just curious about that.
No.
So fast forward to after, you're the CEO of the Miami-Dade Foundation, right? Miami-Dade College Foundation. Mm-hmm. What prompted you to leave that position?
So it was a lot of things were happening, and it had to do with my faith. My faith was growing beginning in 2016.
Okay, I was just going to ask you when did that transition happen. Was there a specific event related to your increase in faith?
Yes. So looking back, so at one point my wife said to me, we should start praying the rosaries. And this is what,
out of the blue?
Yeah, we were having challenges because we both were going our own direction. She was, incredibly talented and smart and brilliant, and she was focusing on her career. I was focusing on my career, and we were not really linked or on the same page. We're rowing in different directions. And she said, let's start praying the rosary. And so to avoid the nagging, if I said no, it would be her nagging for, I don't know how long. So,
or it would have been, I told you we should have prayed the rosary.
Exactly. So it's like, it's 20 minutes. So I said, fine, let's begin. So we began praying the rosary around 2014, something like that. We started having kids, and it made sense. And then in 2016, a good friend who is a mixed martial arts champion. He won the Tough Enough Championship.
Wow.
Dan Pewter, really great guy, but he's not Catholic. He tells me, oh, you're starting to pray, you're Catholic, you're coming back to your faith. We're going to Boston for Thanksgiving, and he says to me, you should call this priest, Father Willie. He's Father Willie Raymond was the president of Holy Cross Family Ministries. And this is the organization that Father Patrick Peyton, he's venerable, so he'll be a saint probably, founded. And he's the one that coined the term, a family that prays together stays together.
Okay.
So, mind you, we start praying the rosary. A couple of years later, my friend Dan, who's not a Catholic, tells me, call this priest. So I call him when we're in Boston. I could have not called him and say, nah, but I called them. And he says to me, come, we'll celebrate Mass, and then we'll go to brunch together. I would love to meet your family. So I'm thinking, Mass, it's in the town where he's at. We go, and it turns out it was a Mass, a private Mass, just for my wife and I and our kids. So my kids read.
Wow.
Now, as I look back, it's like those are the little things where I can, without a doubt, see the hand of God right there. And so we went to Mass, and I thought it was how cool. And then 2017, we went to on a pilgrimage to Mexico, to Guadalupe, to visit Our Lady of Guadalupe,
the Basilica.
the Basilica, and that something began to change in me, and God began to soften my heart, and that was the beginning. And then we went in Medjugorje, which is a place in Bosnia. And I had my first real confession, like where a priest told me, I understand why it's so hard for you to trust, because the person who you had to trust the most left you.
Wow.
And at that moment, I was just like, I just couldn't. I start crying. I couldn't. And so it's been all those things. And like that, I have so many, Carlos, that I can tell you. And you know those drawings where you connect the dots? So I have, I don't know, 50 moments like that in my life when I look back and I draw, and the drawing is the hand of God holding me. You know, I used to think there's a beautiful poem, and I forget who wrote it, but it's a footprints in the sand, and it's you know, the footprints, and you see two sets of footprints, and at some point
he left me, but
no, I was carrying you.
Carrying you.
Yeah, so it's, you know, so that's how I look at my life. It's when I thought that God wasn't there, He was there carrying me through all the difficult moments, and you know, this is a spiritual journey. I am convinced, you know, Socrates said it, you know, 300 years before Christ, then Christ comes and he says, I am the way and the truth and the life. And then, you know, St. Augustine says in the 1500 or the 16th century, you know, our souls are restless until they rest in God.
Yeah.
I think he was onto something. And listen, I feel a peace today that I had never felt before. Mind you, life still happens. Life's still not easy. There are some difficult moments. We lost a baby in 2022.
I'm sorry to hear that.
Yeah, it was hard. But you know, it's I can see the hand of God there, and there was a lesson to be learned, and there was a lesson to be learned from that, and there was growth, and there's been tremendous growth, and there continues to be growth. And nowadays I want the spiritual growth to continue, and everything else will come.
So your faith led you to this latest stage in life, professional stage in life. Tell us about that.
So I have the privilege to be as an associate producer for the film GodBread, which is a story about the real presence of God in the Eucharist.
So to me, that is a real mission, because if you look at the statistics, there are even a pretty large percentage of Catholics that don't believe that.
That's true. Yeah.
What inspired you to tell this story specifically?
So back in 2020, 2016 is when my conversion happened. 2020, I was already, reading, Thomas de Kempis, The Imitation of Christ, The Confession of St. Augustine. So I was already, I liked my faith. I love being Catholic, and I love to know why certain things happen. So I was fully committed.
Do you consider yourself an apologist, or not really?
No, I don't know. I don't think so. I just know, I just know in my heart and in my gut that this is the way and the truth and the life. And it's through it's through Jesus, and it's through the Catholic faith. But I like to look at the things that have happened historically, and I want so this guy, man, Jesus, who everyone says existed, and every religion will say it's a prophet or whatever they say, but there's no doubt historically that he existed. He chooses 12. One of them, and this guy who chooses is God, so he knows everything. So he chooses one that's going to betray him. He knows. He still chooses one that's going to betray him. So fast forward to 2020, and we're so hard on the Catholic Church. But we forget that the one who founded it chose one who was going to betray him.
Yeah.
So it's like, and no, there are more good Catholics then there aren't. There are more good Catholic priests. So I love, and I didn't answer your question, but it's I think that the movie, the GodBread, came about in 2020 when I saw a documentary called Mass of the Ages done, and I thought it was beautiful, and it was about the traditional Latin Mass, and I loved it. A lot of the churches were closed, and a lot of the Latin Masses were still going on. So, it just opened a new door for me of the Catholic faith. So now I'm not a rat trad,
Right.
but I go to Latin Mass.
You do?
I do. I say.
Where is their Latin Mass offered
It's at 10 a.m. at Belen,
here? Okay.
at the chapel at Belen.
Okay.
And every morning at 7:30 a.m. At Our Lady of Mercy Cemetery. So there's Latin Mass every day at 7:30, and I say I learned the prayers in Latin, and I think it's a beautiful language, and I don't think it's a coincidence that whenever there are exorcisms, they are done in Latin.
Mm-hmm.
So there must be something to that. So,
yeah.
So anyway, so I discovered the documentary Mass of the Ages, and then in when I left the college, I got a call from a friend saying, "Hey,
What inspired you to leave the college? You were.
I wanted to do something else.
Okay.
Most of all, I wanted to work something with the faith.
Okay.
Something, that had to do with my faith. And God has been so faithful, and He put this opportunity in front of me to work with
How did
GodBread.
that come about?
Through a friend.
Okay.
Through a friend who decided to put resources into, and they created a film studio, Reclaim Films, and it's three guys that got together: the creative director, Tony Schreiner, who's the CEO, and Lucas Diaz, who's the COO. They decided to invest in building a studio that would make good films to glorify God. And I haven't been to a movie with my family, probably since 2019, and Hollywood just started making, in my opinion, what is really bad film. And so, this was a great opportunity.
And these gentlemen are local?
No, they live in Ave Maria.
Okay.
And in the Panhandle.
Okay.
But they've spent a lot of time here in Miami. They and they're they want to create film for entertainment, but for families who want to take their kids back to the movies,
right.
like me.
Yeah.
So the opportunity came along, and I took it, and now we're working hard to make sure that we start filming in October, and that we have GodBread in theaters next year in 2027.
And is GodBread going to be a documentary?
No, it's a narrative.
It's a narrative.
It's three stories.
Okay.
It's the story of the mother, a mystic, and a martyr. So the mother is the story of, and it's three women in their intimate relationship with the Eucharist.
Okay.
So it's a very powerful, three powerful stories that talk about the Eucharist.
Very interesting.
Yeah.
Hopefully it'll do its job, right? Convince even more Catholics that the real presence of the body of Christ.
I think when we look at what's happening in the country, and we look at the surge in conversions and the people coming back to the faith, and listen, kids want to know God, and I think St. Augustine wasn't wrong. Our souls are restless until they rest in God, and it begins very early on, and I think we families need to talk more about God. We need to pray before our meals. We need to. We took God out for all the wrong reasons.
Yeah, out of everywhere.
Out of everywhere.
I mean, just think about it, Nelson. Eating together as a family at the table has become an incredible challenge.
Yeah.
it's just not done anymore. Hardly. I don't see it. I don't see it. I mean, my kids are adults. They have kids, and I don't even see them doing it as often as really you would hope. I grew up doing it, but admittedly, that tradition was lost in my generation.
Well, it's conversations like this, and as people are more open to talking about, I think there was a period of time where we were afraid to talk about our faith. It was not
absolutely,
and now I think we're back to being okay. I mean, look back at 2020, and it's like the church is closed. Like that it's mind-boggling because the church is not about.
The stores were open.
Correct. Yes. It's it's crazy. I didn't relapse, for the record.
Yeah.
Okay. Just funny. But yeah, I mean, it's spiritual. Our lives are spiritual in nature. Yes, we have bodies, and yes, we have intellect. But ultimately, I think that the driver of our experience on this earth is our spiritual alignment with the source, with the creator, with God.
Yeah. So definitely looking forward to GodBread. Would love to see the movie. And you begin production in October. That's
yes,
the
we
goal?
Start filming in October.
Okay.
Yeah, that's the goal.
Any last words, Nelson? We're wrapping up.
No, thank you, Carlos. Thank you for the opportunity for to be here and to talk about a great topic, which is spiritual awareness and God ultimately.
Yeah, I appreciate your openness and wish you all the luck in the world and all the blessings. Even more important.
Thank you
for that film to make it.
Thank you, Carlos. Thank you.
And thank you for being with us today. We'll see you on the next episode, coming to you very soon.